אזרחי ישראל, בשנים האחרונות, וביתר שאת בשבועות האחרונים, ישראל נערכת לאפשרות של תקיפה ישירה מאיראן. מערכות ההגנה שלנו פרוסות. אנחנו ערוכים לכל תרחיש, הן בהגנה והן בהתקפה.
The week started in the Middle East with violent clashes. The Iranian attack was in response to what many believe was an Israeli strike on the embassy building in Damascus earlier this month. The attack killed 7 Iranian officials, including 3 senior commanders of Iran's armed forces. This occurred amidst the ongoing war in Gaza, where Israel is battling Hamas, a group funded and armed by Iran. The negative impact of these conflicts has extended beyond the Middle East to the global stage. Currently, the United States is deeply concerned that an Iranian attack on Israel could escalate into a regional war, further worsening the situation in the Middle East. Due to this concern, the U.S. has moved many of its warships in the region in anticipation of an Iranian attack. General Michael Eric Killa, the commander of U.S. Central Command, recently visited Israel to coordinate defense strategies with the Israeli Joint Chiefs of Staff. Iran has threatened retaliation against Israel following the strike on the Iranian embassy complex used by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. In response, the U.S. has repeatedly warned of a potential Iranian attack on Israeli territory. Yesterday, a senior official revealed that the U.S. had relocated 2 destroyers, one from within the Middle East and one from outside the region. One of these destroyers was equipped with the Aegis missile defense system. U.S. officials expressed concern over Israel's decision not to inform them about the attack on Damascus. U.S. officials then urged Israeli officials to share information on how Israel might respond to an Iranian attack. U.S. officials said this was partly to protect U.S. forces in the region. Fears of an attack were much stronger last week, when the Israeli government disrupted GPS signals immediately after the Damascus attack. Israeli officials also tried to reassure the Israeli public, stating that it was unnecessary to purchase generators, extra food storage, and withdraw cash. Several Western countries, including France, Britain, and Germany, among others, cautioned their citizens against traveling to Israel due to the heightened threat level. The U.S. also instructed its embassy staff not to travel outside central Israel, Jerusalem, and Beersheba. Despite this, Israel achieved another success in its operations against its enemies. The Israeli Navy intercepted an aerial object approaching the country through the Red Sea. According to the Israel Defense Forces press service, the interception operation was carried out using the latest Sea Dome sea-based air defense system. The incident occurred during a major attack by Iran, during which a large number of missiles and drones were recently launched at Israeli territory. This time, the suspicious object was spotted by IDF forces as it crossed the Red Sea and was quickly brought under control. The Israeli Navy missile carrier promptly responded and neutralized the potential threat. The IDF issued the following statement: "The target was under constant surveillance by our Air Force and Navy and did not pose a security threat. Therefore, no alarm was raised." Iran's precise attacks have caused heightened tension, specifically targeting the Jewish state. Iranian media depicted the attack on Israel as intricate because it involved Iran's allies in Yemen, Lebanon, and Iraq. Some officials noted that this attack wasn't solely from Iran, indicating a coordinated effort from multiple directions. The attack, which began late the previous day, followed Iran's repeated threats of retaliation against Israel for the deadly attack on its consulate in Damascus. Around the same time, Lebanese Hezbollah claimed that the Israeli army had launched numerous rockets at its positions in the Golan Heights, triggering warning sirens in the northern community of Sneer. Hezbollah announced a second barrage hours later. Security sources confirmed that Houthi rebels in Yemen, in coordination with Iran, launched multiple drones at Israel. They added that these missiles were likely timed to reach Israel simultaneously. Additionally, drones reportedly launched from Iraq in coordination with Iran, were considered potential threats to Israeli ports, with warnings of potential collateral damage to shipping. IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagar stated that drones were also launched from Iraq but failed to reach Israel. On the other hand, Hezbollah praised Iran's attack on Israel as a bold decision that marked a new phase in the conflict with Israel and the Palestinian cause. Hezbollah asserted that Iran was exercising its legal rights despite threats. The operation, according to Hezbollah, successfully achieved its limited military objectives, despite responses from the United States, its allies, and regional entities. The long-term political and strategic implications of this significant development will unfold over time. In a recent phone call with his Iranian counterpart, the Syrian foreign minister, who is aligned with the Iranian-led axis of resistance, characterized Iran's actions against Israel as self-defense. Later in the day, the IDF reported striking a significant Hezbollah weapons production facility in the Na-Chit area near Baalbek in northeastern Lebanon. This action came after the Iranian-backed strike group launched approximately 40 rockets into northern Israel. Baalbek, previously known as a Hezbollah stronghold, is situated about 100 kilometers, 62 miles, from the Israeli border. Additionally, the IDF targeted sites belonging to Hezbollah's elite Radwan force in Jebah, southern Lebanon, as well as buildings in Hayam and Kafr Kila, which were utilized in response to overnight rocket fire by the attack group. In the aftermath, Israeli military analysts are divided over whether a more direct confrontation with Iran would alter the ongoing conflict in Gaza, which has entered its 6th month. The next phase of this conflict may hinge on Israel's decision to pursue Hamas in the southern city of Rafah, where over 1 million Palestinians have fled amid worsening humanitarian conditions. Some analysts argue that Gaza's fate will be determined by Israel's response, with a potential major counteroffensive against Iran holding significant consequences. Others suggest that Israel's military operations in Gaza would remain unaffected. Shlomo Brom, a retired brigadier general and former director of the Israeli Army's Strategic Planning Department, expressed concerns that a forceful Israeli response to Iran could escalate into a multi-front conflict, diverting attention from domestic issues. Brom highlighted the challenges of engaging in simultaneous high-intensity conflicts in multiple theaters. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has pledged to deploy ground forces into Rafah despite international pressure to halt the operation. An Israeli official, speaking anonymously yesterday to discuss internal discussions, stated that the Iranian attack would not influence the army's plans to seize AA. General Braun suggested that a significant direct clash with Iran might potentially bring an end to the conflict in Gaza. However, he emphasized that such an outcome would necessitate a broader ceasefire involving various parties, including Israel, Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah. Members of the Israeli War Cabinet refrained from issuing an official statement following their meeting yesterday. However, an Israeli official indicated that the country would retaliate against an Iranian assault. Nonetheless, some military experts reject any connection between the Iranian attack and the Gaza conflict. Retired Major General Amos Gilead, who previously served in Israeli military intelligence, asserted that there is no correlation. According to Gilead, the Israeli army possesses adequate resources to combat both Iran and Hamas in Gaza. Other analysts echoed similar sentiments, emphasizing that the resources required to confront Iran differ from those needed in Gaza. They highlighted Israel's need for fighter jets and air defense systems against Iran. Nevertheless, General Island suggested that the successful coalition response to the Iranian attack, which included the U.S., Britain, and Jordan, could inspire Israel to leverage this momentum to address its declining international standing and potentially end the Gaza conflict. Israel's closest ally, the United States, has expressed support for Israel's actions in Gaza, but has grown increasingly concerned about the escalating death toll. Simultaneously, the U.S. has cautioned against a significant ground offensive in Rafah. The backing of the U.S. for Israel's actions in neutralizing Iranian drones and missiles could provide it with a strategic edge over its adversaries, according to General Island. Such support might allow Israel to garner goodwill within the international community. Ultimately, this could prove advantageous for Israel, especially amidst accusations of causing casualties in the Gaza region. Yet Israel faces calls to restore its deterrent power against Iran, even as allies urge caution. Despite these challenges, Israel's readiness to respond to Iran's actions boosts confidence among its people. The key question now is how Israel will retaliate against Iran. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has urged the United States to recognize Israel's need to retaliate against Iran's recent missile and drone attack. Former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren, suggests Israel will respond strategically to maintain regional and international cooperation, while some factions in Israel advocate for a harsher response against Iran. Furthermore, they advocate for advancing efforts against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. There's growing discontent among the right-wing supporters of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. They're concerned because the planned ground operation in Rafah hasn't commenced yet and doesn't seem imminent. Israel has withdrawn most of its troops from Gaza, prompting the call-up of 2 reserve brigades to bolster forces there in the coming days. However, additional soldiers would be necessary for any substantial operation. At present, Netanyahu's followers are also pushing for a stronger response against Iran. On Sunday, Israel's Minister of National Security, Idar Banir, emphasized that Israel must take more decisive action to establish deterrence in the Middle East. Concurrently, Chuck Frick, a former Deputy National Security Advisor for Israel, warned that failing to act against Iran or in Rafah could further erode Netanyahu's already waning electoral support. Simultaneously, Frick emphasized that Israel possesses the capability to adapt its strategic partnerships, turning them into enduring bonds amidst Iranian aggression. However, Frick noted that this would hinge on Netanyahu's willingness to endorse the post-war blueprint proposed by the Biden administration. This plan involves Israel's acceptance of a path toward a Palestinian state alongside normalization talks between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Similarly, Israeli security analysts suggest that Israel has various response options beyond a large-scale escalation, allowing it to avoid stretching its forces too thin in Gaza, the northern border, and the West Bank. Considering these options, where might Israel target in Iran in the event of an attack? Analysts speculate that Israel's retaliatory measures could include targeted strikes on significant state-owned assets like Iran's oil infrastructure. Historically, Israel has targeted Iranian personnel and infrastructure linked to Iran's nuclear program covertly. There's a chance that Israel might adopt a more overt approach this time. Alternatively, Israel might choose to indirectly retaliate by targeting one of Iran's proxies in the region alongside direct action against Iran itself. However, analysts believe that a direct strike on Iran's major nuclear facilities is highly unlikely, given their deep underground location and the need for approval and assistance from the United States government. For this reason, Shine, who heads the Iran program at the Institute for National Security Studies, suggested that based on significant intelligence gathered by Israel, attacks are more likely to target specific military sites within Iran. Additionally, Shine believes that Iran would likely avoid targeting civilian or economic facilities if Israel were to launch an offensive. Despite ongoing speculation about the possibility of Israeli retaliation, there's another potential scenario to consider. In this scenario, Israel might choose to postpone its retaliatory action against Iran for a later time. This delay could be motivated by concerns that Iran's actions might provide justification for a more severe response in the future. If Israel opts for this delay, it's probable that the United States would also support such a decision. In fact, the U.S. administration is already working toward this goal. President Biden has urged Israel to exercise caution in responding to an attack by Iran and has called for diplomatic unity among allies. The aim of this diplomatic effort is to prevent escalating hostilities from erupting into a full-scale war that could engulf the Middle East and involve the United States. Biden emphasized the U.S.'s commitment to Israel's security and expressed a desire for a ceasefire to return captives and contain violence within its current confines. This statement was made during a meeting held on Monday with the Prime Minister of Iraq, Mohammed al-Sudani. Additionally, during his discussion with Netanyahu on Saturday evening, President Biden emphasized the need for Israelis to proceed cautiously to prevent a potential attack from Iran. This caution led to a successful joint operation following their participation in a significant display of collective defense on Saturday. Efforts were made by the United Kingdom and France to de-escalate tensions and encourage Israel to show restraint, not only in the Middle East but also in the wider region. Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, stated on Monday that while the French should fully support Israel for its safety, they should also advocate for limitations to prevent the situation from worsening. Meanwhile, on Sunday, the leaders of the G7 issued a statement condemning Iran's attack on Israel, expressing solidarity with the Israeli people and urging against further escalation in the Middle East. According to a senior European diplomat involved in the discussions, officials from Japan, Canada, and Europe were wary of allowing Israel too much leeway in responding to the strikes. Additionally, regional actors have adopted a strategy of supporting Israel while discouraging actions that could escalate tensions. The governments of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have entered a confidential agreement to share intelligence and have announced the opening of their airspace to planes from the United States and other nations. Jordan also declared its intention to deploy its own aircraft to assist in intercepting Iranian missiles and drones. This announcement came in response to Israel's appeal for a ceasefire in Gaza. In summary, nations worldwide publicly denounced Iran's reckless airstrikes while also trying to restrain Israel from escalating tensions further in the region. However, it remains uncertain what decisions the Israeli government will make in the future. Despite global calls for caution, some war experts anticipate that Israel's retaliatory measures against Iran could occur soon. Thank you for staying updated with us.